Hey everyone! Today we're going to be talking about macronutrients. Stephanie Stang, a dietitian in the Canton department, will be leading the class if you're joining in Nome. Macronutrients consist of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and they're nutrients that are needed in large amounts. They also provide your body with energy. Micronutrients, equally as important, are needed in smaller amounts and do not provide your body energy. This consists of vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. Now we'll get into more specifics about the three macronutrients. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your body's main energy source. Carbohydrates consist of sugar, fiber, and starches. The needs of carbohydrates depend on how much you exercise, and for sedentary individuals, it's about 40 to 50% of your intake. The starch part of carbohydrates are complex carbohydrates. They're found in starchy vegetables like peas, corn, beans, and potatoes. Also, many grains like oats, barley, and rice have starch. Sugar is a different type of carbohydrate. It can be naturally occurring, such as in milk and fruit, and it can also be added sugars that are added during processing, such as heavy syrup. Fiber is the indigestible part of plant foods and does not come from any animal foods. Fiber can be found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and legumes. When you consume fiber, it passes through your intestines and is not digested, which can really help keep you regular and keep your digestion working well. For good health, adults need to try to get about 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. Good sources of fiber include beans and legumes, fruits and vegetables, especially those with the skin around them, and whole grains such as whole wheat pasta or whole grain bread. Protein is made of amino acids or smaller molecules strung together to make this macronutrient. They are known as the building blocks of the body. Protein can be found in our muscles, skin, hair, and most other tissue in our body. It's very important to our body and helps make enzyme, hormones, neurotransmitters, and antibodies. It also aids our cells in growth and repair. Sources of protein include meat, seafood, beans, peas, eggs, processed soy, nuts, and seeds. It's important when choosing your protein source to choose leaner meats or foods with less processing. You'll now be looking at a table from the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, that shows the recommendations for how many ounces of protein are recommended per day. If you're curious about what an ounce equivalent is, it can be 1 ounce of meat, poultry, or fish, 1/4 cup of cooked beans, 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, or a half an ounce of nuts or seeds. It is important to note that if you are getting a lot more exercise or training for a triathlon or something that takes a lot of energy and a lot of muscle strength, this protein need will be increased. There are 3 different types of fats, and fats are more calorically dense than proteins or carbohydrates. Per 1 gram of fat, you have about 9 calories, whereas with protein and carbohydrates in 1 gram, you have about 4 calories. This does not mean that dietary fats are going to automatically make you fatter. They're very important to keep you full and to keep your blood sugar stable, but the important part is to try to have your fats in good amounts. This equals about 2 tablespoons per meal. Dietary fats protect your organs, regulate hormone production, allow proper absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A and D, and they're a great fuel source for your brain. The important thing about fats is to choose the sources that are healthier for our body, similar to carbohydrates and proteins. So now we'll talk a little bit about the 3 types of fats. You have trans fat, unsaturated fat, and saturated fat. Trans fat, it increases your LDL cholesterol, which we talked about earlier. With LDL cholesterol being higher, this leads to higher plaque buildup on your arteries, which leads them to become much weaker. Trans fat is found in natural sources, but it's mostly found in processed sources and in hydrogenated oils. Next, we have our unsaturated fat. This is the fat that's very healthy for you and can lead to your arteries being healthier and your heart being healthier. Sources of this, and these are the healthiest sources, are going to be olive oil, canola oil, seal oil, walrus, nuts, seeds, walnuts, salmon, and avocados. The last fat is saturated fat. This is not necessarily unhealthy, but we just want to choose it less than unsaturated. It's found in fatty beef, butter, pork, poultry with skin on, beef fat, lard, cream, and cheese. Thank you all for joining for this presentation on macronutrients. I hope that you enjoyed it. A good rule of thumb when preparing your meal is to make 1/4 of your plate from a high quality protein source, another 1/4 of your plate from a starchy vegetable such as a sweet potato, and 1/2 of your plate from high fiber, low starch foods such as greens, carrots, celery, cauliflower. On the side, you can add a piece of fruit and maybe a small cup of milk or water. Thank you for joining, and we will see you next week when Kelly Keys and Jay David speak about mindful eating. Bye.